Hi everyone, Petrik here. So as we are nearing the end of 2024, and that means in the month of December, I will start posting about some kind of like a milestone and recap of every books that I have read. And I did post a video like this last year because today's video, the topic is about the biggest books that I have ever read. But last year, I was including these books based on whether they are worth the read or not, based on their word count. But today, after seeing Mike's book reviews video, I think it was last month or 2 months ago, it was about 5 stars chonkers. I think I want to focus this list based on the best of the best big books that I have ever read. And these books, all of them, I think in total there are about 20 books in this list. All of them are at least 290,000 words long. I'm not using pages here because I think word count is more accurate. So all the 20 books I'm going to be talking about today, I will be quick with some of them because some of them are part of the same series, but all of them are more than 290,000 words long. And I'm not really ranking this. I will just talk about them based on the word count. So from the lowest word count up to the biggest word count. So without further ado, let's begin. The first one that I'm going to mention, of course, it is one of my most recent favorite last year, and it is Demon in White by Christopher Rocchio, and also This Quiet Gods. This Quiet Gods is about 293,000 words long, if I'm not mistaken. Demon in White is 295,000 words long. This is the third book in the Sun Eater series, and This Quiet Gods is the newest book in the Sun Eater series, the penultimate installment. And these two books are some of my favorite books in the Sun Eater series. An absolutely amazing space opera series, and if you love something like Dune, I know that sounds like a cliche to be recommended, but seriously, that's a good recommendation. With a writing style as beautiful as, let's say, Pierce Brown, even though they're not actually similar, but this is just to give you an idea of the kind of books that you can get here. But this one is something special in my opinion. The Sun Eater and the Red Rising Saga are two of my favorite sci-fi series of all time. They are really head-to-head in terms of quality in their own way. And Demon in White, this is the Broken Binding edition, is up there with my top favorite. This Quiet Gods is amazing as well, but I still love Demon in White more. But Demon in White, I think it's up there with Kingdoms of Death. But Kingdoms of Death is much smaller compared to Demon in White. So yeah, this one, it is absolutely incredible, and I will always recommend the Sun Eater series to every one of you who love sci-fi, who love epic fantasy. If you are an epic fantasy reader and you want to experience great space opera that you can enjoy without all the jargons and all that, definitely try the Sun Eater series. Absolutely amazing, and I look forward to reading The Shadows Upon Time, the final book in the Sun Eater series, whenever it's out, most likely next year. And moving on to the next one, this is an epic fantasy book, and I'm talking about The Empire's Ruin by Brian Staffeli. I know that not too many people have read this one yet, but this is the newest book in the world of the Unhewn Throne by Brian Staffeli. This is the new book in the Ashes of the Unhewn Throne, which is the sequel to the Chronicle of the Unhewn Throne trilogy. And I consider this one a masterpiece in epic fantasy. Gwenna is one of my top favorite characters, and I love the Ketral. I think they're so badass, whether it is the soldiers named Ketral as well, or the giant birds. But I just love the Ketrals, and this one is definitely the best book by Brian Staffeli so far, and there are many moments here that actually reminded me of reading The Way of Kings for the first time. Just love this one very much, and Brian Staffeli's prose is absolutely impeccable. I love his writing style so much, and it pains me to wait for the sequel. It's still not out yet. Brian Staffeli, if you're watching this, trust me that you at least have a reader in me waiting for the sequel. I cannot wait to read the sequel as soon as I can, and whenever that's out, I will be reading it for sure. The advanced reading copy or whatever, I will be reading it as soon as possible. I love this one very much, and I wish more readers would give this series a try. Onward to the next one. This is a bit tricky, but this is about Speaking Bones. So Speaking Bones is the final book in the Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu. One of the greatest epic fantasy series of all time, truly one of the greatest, and another situation where I wish more readers would give it a try. Past The Grace of Kings. It seems like many readers read The Grace of Kings and then they decided to drop the series. I can kind of understand that, but at the same time, I wish more readers would give The Wall of Storms a try first before deciding to give up the series or not, because that is a huge step up from The Grace of Kings, and the rest of the series, well, there's nothing else to say except to say that this is absolutely phenomenal. And Speaking Bones is the final book in the series at 350,000 words long, and it is a masterpiece. Just absolutely incredible in every possible way. Out of every book that I have ever read, this one received the most highlight from me. I mean, take a look at this. Look at the ta-da! Yeah, there are so many notes here, so many post-it notes, but I love Speaking Boons very much. The conclusion is absolutely satisfying. And also, for those of you who don't know, The Veiled Throne and also Speaking Boons was originally one book. So in total, this book is supposed to be 700,000 words long, but it got divided into 2 volumes because obviously there's no way they're printing 700,000 words long book. But anyway, regardless of whether you count this as 1 volume or 2 volumes, whatever, but this one is absolutely amazing. And I highly recommend the Dandelion Dynasty to every fantasy reader. Please give it a try. Just like the next book that I'll be talking about, this is one of the greatest conclusions in epic fantasy. And the same goes for the next one. I'm talking about Assassin's Fate by Robin Hobb, the last book in the realm of the Elderlings at 357,000 words long. It is, again, of course, it goes without saying that this is a masterpiece. There is no other claim better than to say that this is a masterpiece in epic fantasy, and also this is kind of like an example of how to conclude your long-running series as wonderfully as possible. I felt content, I felt emotional, and I just felt super satisfied when I finished reading The Realm of the Elderlings for the first time. The last trilogy, the Fifth and the Fourth trilogy, is certainly my favorite trilogy in the entire Realm of the Elderlings, and this is the capstone. This is the final one, the most rewarding book out of every book in the Realm of the Elderlings, and I love everything about this one. Every page, I would not trade any page in this book for anything, seriously. I would not sacrifice them. I loved every page in Assassin's Fate. And every time I talk about this book, every time I talk about this series, it truly hurts me that I still haven't done a second read of The Realm of the Elderlings, and I hope I can fix that. I don't know when, but seriously, as soon as I can. I love this series very much. So onward to the next one. This is 2 books at once, but I'm going to feature just one here because they are so heavy. So this is The Blackest Heart by Brian Lee Durfee, and also The Lonesome Crown by Brian Lee Durfee as well. So the second and the third book in the 5 Warrior Angels trilogy by Brian Lee Durfee, and I consider this to be one of the most criminally underrated epic fantasy series. Brian Lee Durfee did such a great job with the battle scenes, with the most overused tropes like Chosen Ones, Destinies, Prophecies. He used everything into this trilogy, and yet he made it work and made it unpredictable. I just love the way Brian Lee Durfee writes these tropes into his narrative, and the battle scenes is just amazing. And to think that Brian Lee Durfee, I think he has mentioned that Tad Williams is one of his greatest inspirations, and I can see that now that I have read Tad Williams' books a lot. But before then, back then, when I haven't read Tad Williams' books, I didn't know his inspirations yet. I didn't know how Tad Williams' books play a part into his story. And now that I have read it, even though their writing style is different from one another, Brian Lee Durfee is more grim in tone and also more modern. But at the same time, I can see how Tad Williams influenced Brian Lee Durfee's storytelling, and I love this one. I just wish more readers would give Brian Lee Durfee books a try as well, just like Brian Staffley. I don't know why not many people have read their books yet, but yeah, I can certainly recommend Blackest Heart and also this one. I think this is the biggest of the trilogy, tada, The Lonesome Crown. This is almost 400,000 words long. I think it is 380,000 or 390,000 words long, but the entire series, it was originally to be 5 books long, and Brian Lee Durfee made it efficient to put everything into this one book. Brian Lee Durfee and also the editor at Saga Press, Joe Monti, I think they did a great job in compressing everything into a trilogy. I love this trilogy, and I can certainly recommend this to many readers who love the themes of prophecies, chosen ones, and you might just be surprised by how good Brian Lee Durfee used them in his narrative. So for the next one, this is the only non-fantasy and sci-fi book on this list, and this is a book that I read, I think 3 months ago. So this is The Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. Now, this one is a classic. Many readers have recommended this book to me, even though I don't usually read outside of the science fiction and fantasy genre, but I do like to read historical fiction once in a while. And many readers told me to read this regardless of my preference in genre, and they were right. I think I posted a book review about this on my YouTube channel. It is in terms of performance, in terms of view count, the best reviews on my YouTube channel ever. And that's quite a surprise. I did not expect that, considering that I don't usually review historical fiction. But anyway, the characters here, even though this book has been released for decades now, the characters are so well realized, and I think Ken Follett's writing is just incredibly compelling to me. I heard from some readers that The World Without End is even better. This book, I mean, to think about it, this book is more than 400,000 words long. It never felt boring. Every chapter counts. Every chapter is important, and every chapter is compelling. Love Pillars of the Earth, and if you still haven't read this one yet, just give it a try. It's incredible. Truly incredible. The villains, the protagonists, you will love to hate or root for them, seriously. And speaking of classics, well, the next one is of course a classic, and I'm talking about A Game of Thrones and also A Storm of Swords, the first and the third book in A Song of Ice and Fire by George R. Martin. I think A Game of Thrones is about 293,000 words long, and this one is 14,000 words long, but it's more than 400,000 words for sure. And I have said many times that A Storm of Swords, I think it is a masterpiece in epic fantasy genre, and it is for many good reasons. I think it goes without saying, if you are watching this channel, if you are well versed in the fantasy genre, then you know that A Song of Ice and Fire influenced countless readers, influenced countless writers to love the genre, to write in the genre as well. In a similar situation to The Pillars of the Earth, everything about this book is just absolutely compelling. There is no dull moment in A Storm of Swords, in my opinion. And remember, the first time I read through A Storm of Swords, I actually have watched the TV show adaptation, which I think is absolutely amazing as well for the season that captured this one. I think it was season 3 and season 4. It's incredible. It blew my mind. And then when I read the book, it's still just as good. If I had read this one without actually, watching the TV show first, I think this would have been, I don't know, maybe my favorite book of all time. I will never know. Only alternate Petrik in alternate reality will know about that situation. But anyway, whether you have watched the TV show or not, I still would highly recommend reading the books. A Game of Thrones, A Clash of Kings, and A Storm of Swords. At least those three. And surprisingly for me, A Feast for Crows is not as bad as I expected. As I always say every time I talk about A Song of Ice and Fire, I think A Feast for Crows and A Dance with Dragons, many readers who dislike these two books on their first time reading, they have mentioned that these books improve a lot on reread, and I still need to do that someday. But as far as favorite goes, I think A Game of Thrones and also A Storm of Swords, these two books, they can be considered as masterpieces in the genre, truly seminal works that influence a lot of people for many good reasons. And then moving on to the next one, it is the biggest self-published fantasy book that I have ever read, and it is Of War and Ruin by Ryan Cahill, the third book and the middle book in the Bound and the Broken series. Ryan Cahill, he has come a long way since Of Blood and Fire. And I think it is quite a rapid pace compared to a lot of authors, not only in the self-published fantasy landscape, but in the traditionally published space as well. I think Ryan has been publishing for 5 years or 4 years now. And his success has been incredible. And I can only applaud him for it. I think he's done a lot of hard work, and his next books of Empires and Dust will just be, I think, as big or maybe even bigger than Of War and Ruin. And this one, from Of Blood and Fire to Of Darkness and Light, and finally Of War and Ruin, Ryan Cahill keeps improving, and well, it keeps getting better and better with each book. I totally did not expect Of Darkness and Light would improve that much compared to Of Blood and Fire. And then this one, Of War and Ruin, improve even more. It is epic in scope, and so it is sprawling epic fantasy at its best, and I cannot wait to read the continuation to the characters here. This series will be 5 books long, so only 2 books left, but I think it is going to be an epic journey. So looking forward to reading Of Empires and Dust next year. And yeah, this book is even bigger than A Storm of Swords. I think it's 430,000 words long. It's even bigger than Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. And then moving on to the next one, I'll be talking about the biggest single volume epic fantasy book that I have ever read, and it is To Green Angel Tower by Tad Williams, clocking it at 520 or 530,000 words long. It is the single in a single tome, the biggest epic fantasy single tome that I have ever read, unless you count The Veiled Throne and also Speaking Bones as one volume. And not gonna lie, there were some parts into Green Angel Tower that I think could have been shortened or could have been cut off. I mean, it is a truly massive book, but I still end up giving this one a 5 stars rating. I think the second part or the second half of the Green Angel Tower, and I'm not saying that the first half was completely boring, it is not the case. I just think that there were some parts that can be cut off to improve the pacing. But the second half, it is truly tremendous. There were so many destruction, and I work as an art director for the Broken Binding edition of this one, and I'm so glad I managed to capture all the chaos and storm of the final portion of the Green Angel Tower. I mean, take a look at that, and yeah, it is that crazy. The final, I think 200 pages, I think I read through them in one sitting. Absolutely incredible stuff from Ted Williams, and to think this book was published like more than 3 decades ago. Love this one very much, and I still highly recommend Memory, Sorrow, and Dawn Trilogy to those of you who haven't gave this series a try. Now for the last 2 series on this list, I will just talk about them briefly because I will be mentioning them in succession. So for the first one, I'm talking about 4 books in Malazan Book of the Fallen. So they are Memories of Ice, The Bone Hunters, Toll the Hounds, and also The Crippled God. Midnight Tides should count as well, but Midnight Tides, I think it's about 200,000 words long. But for these 4 books that I just mentioned, Memories of Ice, The Bone Hunters, Toll the Hounds, and also The Crippled God, they are all more than 300,000 words long. They are big books, and they are some of the best installments in the entire masterpiece of Malazan Book of the Fallen. I think Memories of Ice blew my mind. I think that was the first time I felt, okay, this series is absolutely incredible. It is epic, and I can certainly get behind reading this series. And then I read up to The Bone Hunters. Mind blown again. So good. It is so good. And Midnight Tides were already amazing as well, but The Bone Hunters is a masterpiece. I think out of every book in the Malazan Book of the Fallen, there are 3 books that I think can be considered as masterpiece. And they are The Memories of Ice, The Bone Hunters, and also The Crippled God. Those 3 books. And really close to them, there are Midnight Tides and also Toll the Hounds. So yeah, I always say, if you're up for something more sprawling and also complex that doesn't hold your hand, the narrative will not hold your hand. It will require your patience and require you to sink or swim. If you're a reader who wants that kind of experience with immensely rewarding experience, then you should try reading Malazan Book of the Fallen. And for the last one, for the last series on this list, 4 books again, and of course I'm talking about the Stormlight archive by Brandon Sanderson. The Way of Kings, Words of Radiance, Oathbringer, and finally Rhythm of War. And of course I think it goes without saying, Wind and Truth, after I read it, will be included on this list as well. But they are all, I consider them all masterpieces in epic fantasy. Love this series very much. I love this series very much. I think Kaladin Stormblast is one of the most well-written characters in epic fantasy. Although oddly compared to Mistborn, I think I have more favorite characters in the Mistborn series in terms of quantity compared to the Stormlight archive. But Kaladin Stormblast, Dalinar Kholin, I think they are on another level. Especially Kaladin Stormblast, I think I just felt connected to this character so much, and I am terrified of reading Wind and Truth. Not gonna lie, I'm terrified and excited. But yeah, every book in the Stormlight archive, they are almost 400,000 words long, or more than 400,000 words long. I think Wind and Truth will be 500,000 words long. So that's about it. That's my top 20 best massive tomes that I have ever read in my life so far. Now, as I said, they are not ranked. This list is arranged through the smallest word count up to the biggest word count. Maybe one day, maybe soon, I will post my top 20 best favorite fantasy books of all time list. I haven't posted that on my YouTube channel or anywhere ever, so I think I will do that someday, but this list is not that. This list is about the top 20 best, biggest books that I have ever read, ever. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it from me today. Do let me know what you think about my list, and let me know what are the best, biggest books, whether it's the fantasy genre, sci-fi genre, or historical fiction, or classic. What are the best, biggest books that you have ever read in your life? And yeah, that's it from me today. As always, thank you so much for watching, and thank you for your support. Bye-bye. Lastly, I want to say thank you so much once again to all my patrons who keep on supporting me.